kids and coaches. It's Professor Lyons with the breakdown for both the fallout of the Michigan State IU basketball game, but the main topic today is going to be preview and breakdown of IU football. So, before we get into IU football, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Shalubies. Shalubies, certainly a real place. And Game Day Bloomington. Please visit Game Day Bloomington for all your men's health fitness needs, to include testosterone replacement therapy, weight loss, peptides, stress hormone reduction. Come visit them. All right, let's talk IU basketball. So, as per the last video that I put out, we saw a Indiana basketball team come out and shoot decently well for about the first 3 minutes of the game, which allowed them a buffer of their only lead of the. Well, actually, that's incorrect. There were two leads. I did make a incorrect statement. I thought it would be Michigan State the entire way. Michigan State was down at one point by 7, and that was very quickly erased. I think the lead was only held for, it was less than like 90 seconds off the clock. But what you saw were DeVries shooting and Wilkerson. Wilkerson was the shooter of this game. DeVries was actually quite cold. I believe he didn't have his fourth point came in from a free throw. So he had 1 3 and then a set of free throws to get up to 5 with like 2 minutes left in the first half. So DeVries, are the person that our entire offense is built around, absolutely cold. And so that did not bode well for the Hoosiers. Michigan State crashing the paint, shooting outside. Basically, as I stated before, better coached home game, better prepared, and a better athletic team than Indiana. And so Wilkerson provided some spark. He provided some much needed points to even make the game somewhat interesting, with a few back and forth 2-point lead, 3-point lead, 1-point lead, and then it was pretty much over in the second half. I think at halftime we had with 11 minutes left in the game, we had 53 points, and we ended the game with 60 points. So we scored 7 points in 11 minutes of game time in the second half. So Michigan State's defense just absolutely demolished the offense in the second half. Izzo came out, made very good defensive adjustments in the second half, and it led to a thumping loss by 23 points, I believe, on the road to a Big Ten opponent. So was not anticipated. Definitely saw this one coming. Definitely after watching, and I'm being able to gather and collect more data watching, more expected the same. As far as betting goes, I'm probably going to suggest taking Hoosiers for the L on the road the rest of the season. I don't see anything on the upcoming schedule that plays into their favor, especially the way that they're playing right now, and almost the exact same scheme of offense rolled out against Michigan State as Nebraska. And because of the lack of home court advantage and your starting 3-point shooter going cold off the bat, Michigan State was all over it. And so I fully expect, as I've stated before, Indiana's going to live and die by the 3. If our shooters go cold, we're done. The turnovers remain a problem. The fouls and discipline remain a problem. At times there are players that seem to not understand where they are defensively aligned. They miss assignments. They're moving when they shouldn't. They're static when they should be moving. And so it looks sloppy. It looks undisciplined. It looks poorly coached. I mean, to the final point. DeVries hopefully learning a lot. I mean, that's the best thing we can say this season. They're with the entire crew rolling over. There isn't a lot of time to fall in love with these players, so when it comes to next year, we having just gained all the entire roster nearly, we won't probably won't really be missing anybody. I mean, Wilkerson has been fun to watch this year. DeVries at times has been pretty fun to watch this year, but outside of that, pretty poor, apathetic play. I won't really miss this roster. And the best thing that I think can come from this season at this point is Coach DeVries building sets and reps and how to coach in the Big Ten, and that's where I'm going to leave it with that. Let's move over to the happy story. I've got the bison horns on. I've got the Rose Bowl, Peach Bowl button going. I've got the flags up. I've got my Big Ten championship shirt on. We beat Oregon. And so let's do a quick recap of some of the things I specifically called out in the last game that came to fruition. Biggest thing, we knew that Oregon and Moore were going to try to test D'Angelo Pons immediately. They wanted to test Oregon's entire scheme. We knew that their backs were injured. We knew that they were going to. They already most of the season had relied on passing anyway, but we knew that because their 1 and 2 back were both injured and or entering the transfer portal, which was a late announcement, they were on their 3 back. Their 3 back hadn't had a lot of reps that season, so it was pretty common, pretty easy to understand why they'd be leaning towards the air. And because of the wide receivers' height advantage, we knew they were going to try to test D'Angelo Pons. And the very first play, Indiana elected to defer. Oregon receives. Freaking IU special team stops them at the 15. Oregon comes out, first play. They test. They tried 5 and they got 6. So they tried 5. Indiana picks it off. Boom. Practically walks it back into the end zone for a touchdown with 11 seconds off the board. Absolutely fantastic read by Pons, and it came to show that was what was going to that was the Oregon game plan, and it did not work well. Indiana scores first, Oregon gets the ball back, and then they did make probably their best offensive sequence of the entire game. That second series of the entire game, and it was a 11-play drive for a touchdown. Testing through the air, IU was getting their feet underneath them. There were some questionable calls, both sides of the ball during that entire series, but they score 7-7. IU gets the ball, and the game was basically over from that point. IU goes on to absolutely just, again, dismantle a really good football team and just make them look absolutely not like a good football team. So, the story of the game, the line again, absolutely providing the entire, all the time in the world and crisp, clean blocks for our backs for Hemby. One of the folks that does not get and hasn't a lot of the season gotten a lot of love, but I definitely noticed, the second half, IU was already up. I believe we were up 35. We were at 35 points at that time, moving to 42. And Kobe Martin came in, our third string running back, and gave Hemby and Black a rest over a 14 play and then ending in a 21-yard touchdown run by Black. But Kobe came in at the 20 and absolutely put yards in. IU did not throw this entire series. They ran. They were trying to burn time off the clock. They were up by 28 at that point, or 24 at that point. And Kobe Martin just came in and held the ball and did the yeoman's work, and the line provided that extra trench work that they're so good at doing this year, and I'm so happy that they're healthy. One point of concern, we've seen 67 on the team, a couple times with some false starts, and those false starts, when they showed them, he had 2, I believe, in this game, and he had 2 the previous game. They're not significant movements. It's almost just he goes into his 3-point stance, but his second hand that's not down in the 3-point stance does almost like a preparatory, like hand down move, and just that little shake to kind of get himself grounded. He gets called for a false start for it, and I guess technically it is, but it seems weird because the body, the legs, the head, not the shoulders, hips, nothing else moves. It's just his fingers doing this, and you get the refs are calling a false start on it. So it is what it is. They got to just be disciplined and kind of work that out. And luckily, it wasn't a huge significant. And when it did happen, it wasn't huge significant 5-yard penalties, but. Again, the point being the line under the captaincy of Doggone Coogan has been great. I mean, absolutely stellar the entire season, and it showed. It showed again. The play ended, or the drive ended, with Black coming back in and getting the ball with a 21-yard touchdown run, and so. Again, just amazing play calls. Oregon defense worn down at that point. Granted, they're bigger size, all touted, all this other stuff. I mean, it's a Big Ten team. It's a very athletic team. It's a Nike team. They recruit well from the West Coast, and we were just able to overcome them with, I think, honestly, that line and Mendoza's ability to work through the time enough to work through his progressions for passing plays and our ability to just wear them down with the line in our runs, establishing that run. So, 3 more touchdowns for Mendoza in, the semifinals going into the national championship. So Hoosiers earn the right to go play at the national championship. So let's talk Hoosiers Miami. Talking heads, and I've been looking at I've got some of the numbers in front of me here. Talking heads this week, just the absolute travesty that people can't just enjoy a good team. It's what we're hearing right now. Well, the Hoosiers are old. They don't have any 5 stars and 4 stars because they just recruited a bunch of dropout 24-year-old 3 stars. They've got a 37-year-old kicker. They've got all $5 million NILs. Whatever the story. They're cheating. The story of the day is that all these sad sack freaking fan teams. I haven't seen a sadder, and I've never really been a Notre Dame hater, even after they beat us last year in the college playoff championship. I thought it was great for the state that we had 2 teams in the playoffs, and I got to go to the game and thought it was great for South Bend. Thought it was great for Indiana fans to get to travel. It wasn't too far. Great for the economies and everything like that. And all I've heard this entire postseason is how Notre Dame is the last team to beat Indiana. That seems to be Notre Dame's national championship from last year, is that they beat Indiana in the first round at home. I don't get it. Apparently it was the culmination of their entirety. They don't even care about national championships anymore. They just care that they beat a state team. So, I mean, congrats, I guess, hats off to 2024, 2025 squadron of Notre Dame team. I mean, we've got your center starting for us now, going back to his 2nd national championship. So, yeah, and then the recruiting wars kicked off with a very stout recruiting class coming in. I mean, I think it's it was at one point the number 1 recruiting class for 3 or 4 days until some of the transfer portal information started to refine and signings were made. But then the argument became that Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame were recruiting better. Well, they were signing some recruits. Indiana signed their first 4-star recruit from the state for a while, but then it became a war of who's doing recruiting better. Well, Marcus Freeman's not playing right now, so his entire effort and his staff's entire effort is recruiting. You saw where Coach Signetti and his staff had to do some recruiting and some transfer portal interviews while they were prepping for Oregon. So take it with a grain of salt. Their focus isn't on recruiting right now. It is a huge part, and it is that time of season, and the window does close, so there is a limit on it. But at the same time, the folks are going to come to Indiana that want to come to Indiana, and Sig's got his targets. Sig's got a system, and he's going to recruit folks that work for his system. And so I'm not that stressed about it. I think we moved down to like 3, and Notre Dame might be one place higher than us, but they're not the number 1 overall. And so again, that's like their national championship for the year, is that their recruiting class is higher. And it's really funny because they play nobody next year. So hopefully they, get beat by another team early. They're out of the national championship, and a bunch of their starters go into the transfer portal, and they have a year of development to come to IU and play. That's the best case scenario I can wish upon Notre Dame, for them, waving the banner of mediocrity for very routine season actions that happen all the time. So that's my tangent and soapbox on where Notre Dame stands, and where the controversy, or the manufactured controversy leading into the game. And I think, the reason why I bring that up, I know that was a huge diatribe and soapbox, but the reason why I bring that up is because I think it's to manipulate the betting. And so on paper, Indiana is just absolutely better at everything than Miami. The first thing that came up was the average size of this is the biggest average size of defensive linemen that Indiana has faced all year, and this is the smallest average defensive line that Miami has faced all year. And so, numbers can say anything. I can make numbers talk and preach and do all kinds of different things, but it's just absolute propaganda. They act like there aren't 345-pound linemen anywhere in the Big Ten, and that we've not played anybody that weighs over 300 pounds the entire season. It's just an absolute joke. And so what I think the reason why that happens is, I think it's to kind of manufacture some false hope for Miami, and some reason to bet on Miami to drive money into the betting. I think that's the so what behind it. To follow the money. But let's take a look. Miami versus Indiana overall. So points per game, Miami ranks 26th. IU ranks number 2. Yards per game, Miami ranks 44th. IU ranks 4th. Points per play, Miami ranks 30th, Indiana ranks 3rd, mostly due to defensive points allowed. I mean, that's a big thing. Yards per play, number 32 at 5.8. Indiana allows opponents' yards per play 4.6. So Indiana defense is going to have to watch that. That's one of the stats that stand out to me, that we are going to have to watch the differential in yards per play. Obviously, your big chunk plays bring that up. Your tackles for loss go in Indiana's favor, where it brings it down. So, do I see Indiana having as, I don't want to say a big of an issue, because we did get to more at Oregon pretty efficiently. Not as well as we did during the Alabama game, during the Rose Bowl, but there were still several tackles for loss. There still were a lot of rushes. There was obviously the interception right out at the beginning of the game. So, I think that's one thing that Indiana has to watch, but we're pretty good at it. And so if there was a weakness to try to exploit, I think it would be that for Miami. But for me, I'm not too concerned. Third down conversions, Miami's number 17, Indiana's 9. Fourth down conversions, we actually are getting beaten this, which is 62. We're 50%, just over 50%, and Miami's 11th. So when we look at, we'll go down to some rushing stats. Rush plays, percentage-wise, overall, Miami does run the ball more. They run it roughly 53%. They're number 52 in the country. We rank at 43%. So, as you were, 60%. So, we have been rushing more. We'll see what happens. Mendoza's still quite, and our receivers still some of the best receivers in the country. And so I think some of these stats have been skewed solely based off of the rushing plays in the playoffs, because both the Rose Bowl and Oregon, we were ahead quite a bit in some instances and were burning clock, and so it drove 14, 16 play series and touchdown runs that added up that percentage, which then drives us higher in our percentage of rush plays. But and speaking of that, one of the things to point out is Miami is touting the size of their defensive line. Now, we haven't faced a defensive line this big. It's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what coach does with this. I think that we will still stick to a traditional, try to establish the run, see what Himby can do with the size. I see probably out of the gate 2 rush plays and then a pass play. I don't see us really jumping or trying to switch that, just because getting that routine and setting that tone and momentum and tempo of the game is important at pretty much every phase of the game. But at the beginning, it tests the waters of what IU is looking at, and it gives the coach and the OC an ability to see, kind of refine what they're seeing. And our OC is absolutely great. I mean, his ability to compress time and decision making down and make plays that are both impactful and, the cliche is just, slice apart the defense. The thing is that he's very capable of taking information in quickly and decision making quickly based on the tools he knows he has. And so he knows his plays and he knows his team very well. And because of that, he's able to get those plays out to the team far more quickly. And it puts, it gives Mendoza better freedom of maneuver. It gives him more time to think about. And then ultimately, the line works in concert to give Mendoza time to work through his progressions. And so back to the point of rushing, I see Indiana rushing immediately and trying to establish the run game to test and see what they have. I see them throwing, 5 to 7 yard passes to get them out of trouble if they don't gain anything on those first 2 downs, and to try to get the first downs. I see that just being our tempo over and over again until there's enough data collected, and then until something breaks and we're able to exploit it. So what do I see? With Miami's offensive line size to our defensive size, what do I see? Well, they pass 53, or they rush 53% of the time. I think this is an intangible thing. I think Miami is high on their own supply. I think they can't be beat. I think they have bought into the hype. I think that they think Indiana is small. Indiana is, hasn't been tested. Indiana hasn't played X, Y, or Z. And they're going to probably look at a lot of the Indiana Ohio State film and their game against Ohio State to try to make comparisons. Because I think they're going to come in overconfident, I think they're going to try to go to the air. And although I think their strength is more along the line of a more complete and balanced attack, just like Indiana. I mean, it does favor and it has favored rushing in the postseason, but like I said, I think that's only because of the oddity of burning down time, and we're playing a little bit of a different style, not as an op tempo as we were during conference play, deferring the football, for example, not scoring as fast as we possibly can at almost every possession or every series. So we'll see what happens. But if I had to guess, and just based on the numbers that I'm seeing, the coaches' interviews, the interviews with the players, all that other stuff, Indiana has remained to stay humble. They believe in their coach, and they're going to do what he says. I don't think that they have bought into the hype. I think we look at this as the next game. I think Miami is riding the wave and think they've already won the national championship. And so because of that, I think Indiana has both the mental advantage, but that plays into the decision making advantage when it comes down to play calling, which is going to turn into we want to make a high dynamic pass. We want to make a huge splash right out of the gate at home, with a hometown crowd. And then we have all the momentum in the world and we own this thing. I think that that's going to be their ruin. I think that they are going to end up doing something as foolish as trying to test ponds. I think they're going to end up doing something as foolish as like throwing an 80-yard, pass during the first series, and it's going to get thrown back in their face. And I think that that is going to be hilarious, honestly, because of the talking all week about how great they are. The only other thing really is I want to take a look at, because it has come up in a few things, it has been turnover rates and penalties. And so, as I said, Indiana's been pretty good. When we look at turnover rates, Miami is at number 16 and we're at number 1. So you're still talking 2 top 20 teams, but we definitely have a more disciplined team. And so that has been, very key to our season so far. The takeaways during per game, or forced fumbles, etc. 31-3. So again, advantage there, IU. Penalties. They rank 128 out of 132 in the country. And so that's not good. They have a lot of penalties, and we are quite the opposite. We rank 4th. So that should be interesting to see what happens there. Now, so we're going to close up with the penalties thing, and the reason why. So we talk penalties, we talk what impact are the refs going to have on this game. Well, this game is being played in Miami. The president and secretary of state are going to the game. The Miami elite, rich, wealthy class are going to be there. There's going to be many celebrities. It's the most electrifying game in sports and entertainment on Monday night, and so it's going to be well attended. The attendance seems to be based on ticket sales and secondary ticket sales. I believe the last number I saw earlier today was 90% IU purchases. And so what you're seeing are Hoosiers buying secondary market, paying extreme big money to be there. But I think your celebrities and wealthy elite are going to own, the inner bowl and the VIP seats. So a majority of those seats, you're going to see the orange all around the interior of the field. I have no doubt it will be very Miami friendly. There will be Miami fans in the end zones, both sides, and the high fives and the celebratory and jump into the stands and all that kind of nonsense that they do. And then the outer periphery or the outer ring will be almost all red, and that's what the numbers tell me there. So when we talk, you have a team that travels very well and has traveled very well in both postseason games, and you have a hometown team. So who gets the advantage? I want to say logic would dictate the hometown team, right? Just because it's so easy. But like I said, I think because there are fewer interior seats, and although they're closer to the field, you're going to get the rich folks and some of the Miami fans and student section, obviously. They're going to be there to be able to make the noise. But I'm telling you, having been live at the Rose Bowl with IU's band on my side of the field and Alabama's band on the other side of the field, there was no noise from Alabama. I mean, it wasn't even it wasn't even close. I mean, it was all Indiana. And the same thing, I didn't get to go to the Peach Bowl, but it was the same message from the players that it was absolutely, insane. The noise level, the pop after the Pons interception that was made. And so, you know, I'm gonna give I'm gonna give the advantage to Indiana. I think that they're gonna show up, and I think that even if ticket sales end up moving slightly, I mean, it doesn't even look like it's close right now. 90% sales, and we got 3 days left. I don't see them bringing it below 80%. It's probably going to be 80% secondary market sales to IU, and that's a lot of people. But I would still say even if Indiana was 60% of the sales, Indiana fans are loud, and it's going to be an IU fan, an IU crowd, and I think we're going to get the advantage there. Refs wise, I mean, the fix could be in. What do we got? We got point shaving scandals this week in basketball. I mean, every week you're seeing the dismantling of college sports. The refs are getting popped, players are getting popped. There's just no whether there has been forever or not, but it's becoming easier to cheat, and it's happening. And so, will I trust it? Yeah, as far as I can throw it, but we'll see what happens. We've seen how many national titles have been vacated, and when you look at just the reputation, the area, the refs, the whole deal, I'm not impressed. So we'll see what happens. Score predictions. What do I think? Well, I think Miami's going to do better than both of our previous teams. Even the hype has been the exact same. I mean, it has been exactly the same. But I think that because of that, the coach is going to take it more serious. I think both times IU was underestimated quite a bit, and Miami's coach is finally going to pay the respect that he needs to Indiana's strengths, and he's going to try to mitigate them as best as he can. But I don't think that he can. I mean, he's going to try, but I think IU will be able to overcome it. I predict that IU will most likely get 2 or more touchdowns in the air. So I would go with the 2.5 touchdowns in the air. I would say 2 is safe, 3 is the bet. If you want to put plus money down on 2.5 touchdowns in the air, and I think we're going to get 2 on the ground. I think we'll end up kicking. I would be surprised if there's a score back or forth the first series. I think this series is going to be a little bit more deliberate and a little bit more methodical, but we'll see. I was a little bit shocked with how quickly we scored, and then how quickly Oregon scored. I thought our defense would figure it out during that series, and Moore was able to absolutely pull apart and make some great passes and some great plays to drive his team down the field. Granted, one of them came with an IU penalty that was a bit questionable, but then there was later on a makeup call that was probably also questionable that paid us back. That was in our favor. So score-wise, what do I think? Well, the over, it's got Indiana by 7. I think that's safe. I would take the Indiana over 7, and I would take the Indiana money line. The over-under is an interesting one just because I think that this one's going to end up being under based on a more defensive-minded game that is going to end up being played. And I think that advantage goes to IU. But we'll see. The hype is their line is the size of giants, and so we'll have to see how the speed and the finesse and the execution of a smaller, lighter defensive scheme works against the hulking giants that apparently exist down in Miami. So score-wise, I'll go Indiana 44, Miami 24. I think that's somewhere in there. That's over, but ballpark, we run it up. But I think that's probably where the game will end up. So that's going to finish it for me here. Kids and coaches, we will talk to you next time. this will be the end of the season, so no IU football. We might come on with some transfer portal news or any big updates for the upcoming season, but we will be moving over to IU basketball and any Cubs updates that happen. And let's hope that Coach DeVries and IU basketball can figure it out to give us somewhat of a chance to play in the Big Ten tournament, and maybe figure something out to make a run. We're not even on the bubble right now, so we're gonna have to do some work to try to figure something out there. But IU basketball taking a knee this year to try to figure out their coaching staff. If Indiana can win a national championship, I think that's going to keep me warm until next August. So that's it for now. Until next time, out here.